What is up, guys? It is Kitsos from Coasterland, and today we are ranking the number 87 through 75 spots on my wooden coaster ranking. This is the bottom 12. Uh, it's going to be awesome. We're going to check out several rides in this video. It's a multi-part series, probably 5 or 6 parts as much as, because this video is going to be about 25 minutes long. Alright guys, so at number 87, we have Little Dipper at Camden Park. Now most people don't get over to Camden Park for the obvious reason of it's in freaking West Virginia, but it is a nice little park, if not very sketchy and probably somewhat dangerous at times, but you know what, that adds to the fun. I mean, the safety regulations here are ridiculously, non-existent, but it's fine. Nobody's died yet, I don't think. Maybe? I don't know. I'll Google that later. Anyways, so this ride's a little bit janky, but for the most part, a decent kid's ride. At number 86, we have a roller coaster. Now, roller coaster is a solid wooden coaster. It's a family wooden coaster. I mean, it disappointed me so much because I hear all the old timers, some of the guys who've been riding coasters for 40 plus years, rave about this ride. And I'll be quite honest with you, it just disappointed. I mean, it's a fun little ride, don't get me wrong. It hugs the terrain. I like that aspect. But let's be real here. This ride really just wasn't it for me. No real airtime. I mean, there's one moment or two moments, but they weren't really that strong. There were some laterals, but overall, this old classic wooden coaster just didn't do it for me. It wasn't what I expected. It was much, much more tame than I expected. And yes, I get it's a family coaster, but just something to consider was that it was way, way, way too tame. At the number 85 spot, we have Little Dipper at Six Flags Great America. Now, this little wooden coaster is not too bad. It's actually very similar to the Woodstock Express clones in a lot of ways. It definitely rides like them in a way, but it's definitely a fun little ride. It has a little bit of airtime, not really that much. Just very smooth, enjoyable family coaster. As you can see, it just kind of um, has a similar layout, but not really exact to the Woodstock Expresses. Like, it kind of gives that vibe of that family wooden coaster, just kind of that double or triple out and back. I forget which. I think it's a double out and back. Just kind of a little family coaster for the kids to enjoy their first wooden coaster potentially. It does its job well. It definitely fits into the parks lineup. It is short, but it's also quite sweet. And, for a family ride, I enjoyed it overall. And it was definitely better than I expected. But still, it being a very small family coaster, I can't really justify putting it any higher than this, which makes sense, I hope, to most of you, that it just wasn't the same way or same level as some of the rides later on this list. So, moving on, we have the number 85 spot, which is Meteor at Little America. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a fun little ride. It definitely delivered a reasonable experience, and we got to go around like 3 or 4 or God knows how many times. So that was cool. As you'll see in this POV video, I may cut it short because obviously going around multiple times is a little repetitive, and I can't talk about the ride for like 5 minutes straight. So yeah, it may be a little bit less than 25 minutes, this video. Just a heads up if I do decide to cut it. But overall, Little America as a park is pretty interesting, and this ride is no exception. It was actually built over a period of 7 years as it was relocated because it was built by like the same 3 guys. Like, there were just 3 guys who said, let's build a roller coaster at our park. And we don't have the money for a construction company, but we can afford the relocation fees. So let's freaking do it. Why not? and they did it. And I only know this story because I talked to the owner of the park after sustaining a significantly bad injury on their chance toboggan. I'm pretty sure I got my bell rung a little bit there. So that's something to definitely be aware of this park. But anyways, back to Meteor. Meteor, it had a little bit of floater. It was a nice, relaxing wooden coaster. It was definitely a family coaster. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that they let you go around multiple times, that it's very enjoyable, it's very smooth, very, very smooth. Like it was ridiculously smooth, very well maintained, and just an overall great experience. I definitely enjoyed it. And as you can see, they let you go through the station right back up the lift hill. And this is done at least 3 times typically. I think that's how many rides we got. And that's a cool feature. Like, you don't usually get these family woodies going around multiple times because they tend to be at larger corporate parks where they just decide, we got to keep the line moving. This family coaster is going to have a long line, which, to be fair, is understandable. I actually did wait about 15-20 minutes for this ride, but like it was the longest wait of the day, and for a park like Little America, it was good to see them getting business as well and having those lines at all. So that's kind of a cool thing as well. So I'm gonna cut the clip here, um, and move on, or actually a few more points. Um, this is an old ride; it was relocated, so that's something to note. And you know, it just something to note about it. It's not really a huge deal, but how it was relocated was a huge deal. Actually, I think we only went twice, or did we go 3 times? Yeah, we did go 3 times. Um, they stopped us on the brakes to kind of make it seem like the ride was over, and then they decided to send us one more time. The ride operator did. Something to note. Um, they were like, "Do you want to go again?" And we were like, "Yeah." And then it was like, "Okay, let's do this." So that's kind of how that went. And overall, just an epic ride for the families, just mainly because of the history. It's not particularly intense. I know it ranks ridiculously low, but you got to understand, I've ridden some absolutely fantastic wooden roller coasters. So it's understandable that I just have a low opinion of some of these family coasters. It's not like I've only ridden 10 Woodies, I've ridden 87. So it's kind of something to consider as well. So I guess we did make it through the entire clip. So moving on to the number 83 spot, we have Woodstock Express. 83 through 81 are all Woodstock Express clones. The reason for that is because I've kind of lumped them together because I only have one of the POVs for Woodstock Express. So 83 through 81 is, in fact, the Woodstock Express clones. So to talk about it, this is the Kings Island version. It's the lowest ranked at 83. At 82, I have the Kings Dominion version, and at 81, I have the Carowinds version. The reason they're ranked separately is because I found the Carowinds version to be the smoothest and most enjoyable. I found the King's Dominion version to be pretty decent. And then the Kings Island version just randomly kind of sucked. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of sucked. It was just not that great. And I don't know why. It just didn't do it for me like the others did for a family wooden coaster. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that and why I kind of ranked the Kings Island one the lowest. But yeah, I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's a family Woody. It does what it's supposed to do in the lineup, adding another family-friendly attraction to the lineup. So that is, perfectly okay with me. So now that we've reached the end of this clip, we're going to move on to number 80. Number 80 is going to be, drumroll please, Pegasus at Mount Olympus. So Pegasus is a very odd ride. Like, I don't even know what to say, man. This ride is weird. Like like kind of concerningly weird. Like it's yeah, I don't know, man. It's just a crazy experience because I'll tell you one thing I can guarantee you. It is rough as bleak. This footage, by the way, I used from I believe this was Valley Thrills. Yes, Valley Thrills. So thank you to Valley Thrills. You'll be credited in the top corner of the video if you're watching this video. Appreciate you for doing the no copyright footage. So basically, you start with a drop, then a turn, and you're gonna notice you make a lot of right-hand turns on this ride. Although not there, that's a left-hand turn, but everything else is a right-hand turn. And it's just a bumpy, kind of uncomfortable family wooden coaster that borderlines on family thrill. It kind of just, for what it is, it works. I mean, it gives Mount Olympus an intermediate coaster. I'll give it that. But to be fair, it just isn't really that great overall. And I will say in the back row, and even in the front row, especially in the front row, actually, there's a comical moment at the end where basically you just get whiplashed, completely whiplashed. Like it's kind of ridiculous. By this random unbanked curve into the brake run. When I tell you this ride, just it just makes no sense. Like you're trying to break kids' necks kind of situation. Like it was really that bad. And I don't know, man. It just, yeah, it was bad. It hurt a lot. And Papa was complaining about a neck ache for like 5 days afterwards. Although that could just be from the amount of coasters we rode on this trip. But let's face it, 2020, we were riding tons of coasters. We also had COVID going on around us. You know, it was just an overall weird situation for everybody involved. So maybe you just had to stress aches and pains, but the reality is this ride's kind of bad. Not gonna lie. All right. So moving on to the number 79 spot, we have Arkansas Twister. So Arkansas Twister, I really wanted to rank this lower, honestly, because this ride is kind of, terrible. Um, So what's wrong with it? Let's at least go that. Also, thanks to the Quackens Coaster channel. They have some non-copyright footage as well. So thank you to you for providing this footage. You will also be credited in the top corner of the video. So what's wrong with it? Well, the better question is what isn't? It's somewhat rough. It's completely boring. It's a massive wooden coaster that does absolutely positively nothing in terms of force. It just is truly, 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 truly awful. Oh, and did I mention when I went to Magic Springs, uh, literally 12 to 15-minute dispatches on this ride. And it didn't have a small line. Like, we were waiting for a good hour and 20 minutes before we finally got on. And I'm gonna be real, that's unacceptable when you got that many people to just be talking, standing around the station, just having conversations with your coworkers who are off the clock. Like it's just a disappointing reality that they did that. And also this ride has several trim breaks. Like right there, it barely makes it over that hill because of that trim. And I like it just it's just trimmed to death, doesn't do anything, and is an overall crappy ride. That's how I'll just describe it. So at number 78, we have Skyliner at Lakemont Park. Now, don't get me wrong, this ride wasn't bad. It was just so freaking weird. Like, it didn't really do a whole lot in terms of force, but it didn't do, like, nothing either. It was just kind of an overall weird ride. It didn't really, like, deliver the same amount of force as I expected it to. Looked like a solid classic wooden coaster. Rode like a classic wooden coaster. I wouldn't put the solid in there, which is why it ranks at 78. But, it's overall a good ride. I mean, it's not bad, it's just not great. And that goes to show how many awesome rides I've ridden that are wooden coasters. I always appreciate a good wooden coaster, so that should give you an inkling that I really do enjoy most of them. There are a few that just no. This one wasn't exactly smooth either. It definitely was a bit bumpy. That may just be because of Lakemont's financial problems. It's not as well maintained as it once was. But it had a couple moments of airtime. Good restraints with the buzz bars. And, it wasn't terrible. It was just not great. And that's really all I can really reiterate, if you know what I mean. It was a relatively long ride as well, considering its track length is not that impressive, but it was a reasonably long ride. Um, and parts of it were smooth, parts of it were rough. It was very inconsistent with that. It definitely wasn't the smoothest coaster out there, though. Papa and I both thought, what the heck was this? It's kind of weird. But we both also enjoyed it to an extent. So it wasn't like a total wash or anything. It just wasn't what we really expected out of a classic Woody like this. So overall, just a solid ride. Nothing special, nothing bad. Just a solid, okay, decent classic Woody. Alright, so moving on to number 77, we have the Legend at Arnold's Park. Where do I start? I got it. This ride is boring. Now, before GCI came in, I believe it was GCI, and modified a bunch of stuff, did some work on it, I heard it was not a terrible ride. It was halfway decent. But, like, now it just doesn't have force. I wanted to get airtime so bad with those buzz bar trains. I just didn't. And, I love a good buzz bar train as much as the next guy. Like, I really do. Buzz bars are freaking awesome. Like, the heck? Like, they're the best restraint system on a wooden coaster. As you can see, for those of you who don't know, a buzz bar is basically a lap bar system that just comes down about a foot off your lap, just keeps you from flying out, basically. That's its only job. Allows for a lot of airtime on airtime filled rides. And also, a little fun fact is they buzz when a lot of times when they open and close the restraints because it's an electric current that you can definitely hear that works through the restraints. At least I believe it is. But yeah, you start with your climb up the lift hill. And by the way, don't get me wrong, Arnold's Park was a good time. I'm glad I took the detour to go here. I never normally would have, but Six Flags Great America said no. And so did Valley Fair. So we had a couple extra days. And I said, you know what, Papa? Let's go here. But yeah, it's just, an overall weird ride. It kind of has the curve drop, which is kind of cool for a ride that opened in 1930, I believe. But, it's cool to have the curve drop. But as you can see, it really just kind of crawls through the layout. It just doesn't really go that fast. It doesn't really particularly fly through the course or anything. And it does have a nice view of the lake there. Another complaint I have with this ride is it is so short. Like, look, one more hill and then bang, you're done. It was kind of cool they put magnetic brakes on this, so I will give it that. That was kind of a weird thing. Although it did this weird thing where it didn't feel natural and it kind of slowed you down, like from advancing to the next section. So that was kind of an interesting thing that happened. But overall, Legend at Arnold's Park is just okay. I mean, it had decent speed, and it just wasn't forceful at all, and it showed. It definitely showed. So, moving on to the number 76 spot, and please excuse the background noise, my little brother is a butt. But at the number 76 spot, We have Hurler at Carowinds. Now, Hurler doesn't do a whole lot for me. It has some airtime to a point. If it didn't have the trim at the bottom of the first drop, I'm pretty sure this ride would be epic, because it has a lot of airtime hills that try to give you airtime, but it just doesn't. But to be fair about Hurler, it does have a great sense of speed despite the trim. It definitely hauls through the layout. It just doesn't quite have enough speed to give you that airtime you know it wants to, and it's obvious it wants to. Like, it's not like a, oh, those hills would never give airtime. It's more of, it just needs a couple more miles an hour. The turns are fun. Like, I enjoy the turns. I disagree with Theme Park Worldwide that it's the worst wooden coaster in the world, but I do see his point that it is forceless, because it really isn't that intense. But, I put up with it because I like it. I like a good ride on Hurler every time I go to Carowinds, which is relatively frequently. Um, didn't go this year, but, you know, the point still stands. And overall, just want to say that Hurler is not the worst wooden coaster on Earth. I mean, obviously not. There's lower rankings on my list, but it isn't the best either by any stretch of the measure. So yeah, that's kind of the situation there with Hurler. Uh, Papa seemed to not hate it, not love it as well. So that was kind of both of our verdicts. Is it's just okay, but just okay is fine. It's just not exactly what you want out of a ride. It's just okay, you know. So, anyways, at the number 75 spot, the last spot on this particular section of this series, we have Kentucky Flyer. The first of the Gravity Group family Woodies is the weakest of them all. It still is a very fun ride with reasonably decent airtime, but the last time I rode it, I found it a little bumpy and also not very airtime filled compared to my first ride on it. Maybe I got a bad ride, that's what I'm guessing, but it just didn't do it for me the same way, to be quite honest with you. So, the ride itself, sorry, lost my train of thought, but the ride itself is fine. It's nothing special, as I said, but the cool thing is it's setting near the water park allows you to kind of get a panoramic view of Hurricane Bay, which is kind of cool. Like, it definitely works, and it also, despite being a very short coaster, because it's the only coaster in that area, actually works great as a skyline coaster. Because you look at it, it's the only coaster there, and it kind of gives a nice addition to a skyline that already looks great with Lightning Run and Thunder Run and Storm Chaser and whatnot. But this definitely adds to that section of the park. I'm glad they put it here. Not that they had anywhere else they could put it. They're very landlocked, but I'm glad they put it here because it does make sense to kind of give that little skyline kind of feel with it. But as you can see, plenty of airtime hills. Some give airtime, some don't. And then you're kind of just done. But overall, not a bad ride and definitely enjoyable. So guys, that's part 1 of my wooden coasters ranked video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, click that like button down below and subscribe for more awesome coaster content from Coasterland. I hope you continue to have a great day. I hope your day's going well, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, comment your thoughts below. Peace, guys.